Okay, so World Championships out in Budapest. Really exciting stuff so far. The first thing I really wanted to hit on was Jordan Burroughs. First of all, unbelievable heart of a champion. Obviously, the guy's always in it to win it. Wrestled a great tournament. Wound up coming back for bronze, beating Frank Chamizo, which is just unbelievable. I mean, both of those guys just world class. The whole weight class, just ridiculous. It's crazy to think that, Burroughs or David Taylor and Kyle Dake being behind Burroughs for so long, going up in weight classes, both of them being world champions. So it just goes to show you just how tough Burroughs is. And, just watching his match, great stuff. I remember the semifinal match, and Burroughs gave a great interview after the whole thing about how, just making sure that mentally you don't take a play off. With those 8.5 seconds left, I remember watching it and seeing if you put it on pause and you see it gets back to the middle, his stance was pretty high. And he gave great points about the same thing in his interview about saying, maybe a stance check, hands down nice and low. I remember when Zeke Jones is our coach back at Penn, he used to say, make sure check your stance. At any point in time, any given point in time in your stance, your hand should be able to touch the mat. Hands nice and low. And he was a little bit higher, and he wound up getting taken down. Lesson learned. He understood it. He saw it clearly, and he made those adjustments. So, again, just important points, making sure our intensity level is high at all times, making sure our focus is high, and that means having a low stance and making sure we're controlling all those other body language things that we could control. Making sure our hands aren't on our knees, standing up straight. You just see this a lot, especially at the international level. I mean, these guys are good. These guys are seasoned veterans. So a lot of times you might see at a young age, the guys are doing really good with hands out, hands not on their knees. They're in a stance, nice low stance. As time goes on, those guys are picking up their feet quickly. They've wrestled a lot of matches. A lot of them are battling injuries. And you see at the international level, guys are hands on the knees, standing straight up, coming out of their stance at different times. Sure, they pick up their feet a lot better than the youth wrestlers, but they're just as susceptible to getting taken down. So that was one of the main mindset critiques we would have said with Jordan Burroughs. He called it out on himself. That's what makes him so great, that he's willing to acknowledge the things he does well and the things he didn't do as well. And he learns and he makes those adjustments. So making sure that we have that same self-reflection when we go out there and compete, that we're able to look at ourselves honestly and say, what are the things we did well? What are the things we did poorly? And make adjustments. One of our mindset worksheets, Self-Knowledge Week 5, our match evaluation. We spoke about this many times in the past, the match evaluation. It's going through factors that are directly in your control. So when we ask our wrestlers, how did you do in the tournament this past weekend? We know they wrestled the past weekend. And they say, I was 4-2, or I placed third, or, I had whoever they placed, what the record was, what medal they got, all that stuff. And basically, we just kind of brushed that off. Hey, that's great, good job. Or maybe they didn't do so well. Oh, that's a tough one. But what I go right to is asking them, all right, on the match evaluation, the factors you have directly under your control, how did you do with those? Record tells me nothing. You might have wrestled good guys, you might have wrestled bad guys. Your placing tells me very little. I don't know how you wrestled. So none of that stuff really makes a difference. We go to our match evaluation, the factors that are within our control. Now at the match evaluation, what we have on there before the match, number 1, did you get a great warm-up physically? Yes or no? Number 2, did you go through your pre-match routine? Those 15 to 20 minutes right before you step on the mat, this is separate than your warm-up. This is your pre-match routine. What exactly were you doing? We tell all of our wrestlers the worksheet right before this on our pre-match routine. You have to have a very detailed, specific pre-match routine so you know exactly what you're going to be doing and thinking leading up to your match. Did you do your pre-match routine? Yes or no? Every wrestler should have one. Then we break down the match into neutral, top, and bottom during the match. So a couple key factors that we talk about. Did you take the first shot? Were you moving forward the whole time? Did you take several full shot attempts? In scholastic wrestling, did you have a first move on top and bottom? Those are directly in your control. So whether the guy's really good, whether the guy's not so good that you're going against, did you have a first move? And then on the bottom, we break it down into effort and attitude. Under effort, you worked hard during the match. No lazy attitudes, no hands on our knees, no standing straight up. Wrestled hard at the end of bouts and at the end of periods. not clock watching, not keeping score. That's under attitude. Did we stay calm? We didn't argue with the ref. We didn't look up at the referee for a call. So there's that and a lot more in our match evaluation, really honing in on those factors within our control. It's so easy to focus on wins and losses. It's so easy to focus on placing, which is why we tell all of our wrestlers, this match evaluation, you want to be doing it after every single match, going point by point, and even doing it after practices. So you start burning these elements that are directly in your control into your mind. Because again, most people, what do they say after a match? Well, they have an ugly win. Coach says, hey, win's a win. Pats them on the back. Hey, it doesn't have to be pretty, but it just has to be a win. And then what happens? We forget about all these little factors that are directly within our control. Same thing. I remember many times when I was competing, when I would lose, I would get real down on myself. I'd beat myself up because I lost, and not focus on the things that I did well, and not focusing on the things that I could have controlled. So that's a big difference between the average person, or even myself, who was a very good wrestler, and Jordan Burroughs, who is elite wrestler. He takes an honest look at himself after the match, and because he doesn't have he has pride in a good sense in himself, but he doesn't have pride in a bad sense where he's going to overlook the things that he made mistakes on. Takes an honest look at himself, realizes there's a lot that he could have done, or a few key points where he could have kept his intensity higher and his stance a little bit lower. So that's what we want to focus on a regular basis. A lot of times we don't do it. The older we get, sometimes we become too cool for school, and we don't do those little things that make us successful. So it's a lesson that Burroughs learned again the hard way. We've all learned it many times the hard way. Let's take it from the top right now. Starting from scratch, you have the match evaluation, especially if you're on the Wrestling Mindset program. If you don't have it, let us know about it. We can get that over to you for free. We're happy to give away one of our top worksheets that we created for free. Big difference between what other people are doing, focusing on wins and losses, records, rankings, seedings, and predictions. What are the factors within your control? We broke that down for wrestling. For our athletes of other sports, a lot of people listening to our podcast, they have kids who are athletes of other sports. We have them broken down for baseball, for basketball, for volleyball, tennis, golf, on and on and on. We have a match evaluation or a game evaluation or just a competition evaluation of what exactly you should be thinking about when you're evaluating that past performance. A lot of people focus on the wrong things. It takes a lot of time to unlearn a bad habit. And the bad habit that we've learned over the years is focusing on the outcome. We want to pull you away from the outcome. When there's 8.5 seconds on the clock, we don't want to be thinking about the winning and losing. We want to be thinking about the factors within our control. Our hands are down. Our head is up. Stance check. And we want to make sure we're able to, another factor outside of our control, exactly what Burroughs did. He evaluated after the match, made the necessary corrections, and came back and beat one of the best, if not the best wrestler in the world, beating Chamizo. So hats off to him. It's a great thing. It's a great lesson we learn. We can learn from everyone, and great things, really great things. So stay with us. We're going to constantly be pumping out great information, different topics, different matches that we see, and lessons you could learn from it. But today, the match evaluation. If you don't have it, get it. Ask us for it. We're happy to send it on over. So you're focusing on the factors that are within your control, and you're overriding the system. Overriding your system that tells you mentally it's all about the wins and the losses. Stay with us. Winning Mindset.